wondering what to write about, trying to figure out what it's all about. Existentialist, am I worth anything or just a scout? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know.
Spending time all alone, sending my songs to the phone, dreaming of a better home, while focused on trying to hone this craft, witchcraft. I hope the Bluez let this last.
I don't know if the earth is painted blue.
That was great sounds of Watson with Outside on WNHH LP 103.5 FM New Haven. Myself, Prestige, with my partner in crime, Long Island raised, Elm City made, E.D. Bluez is in the building. Easy Bluez, you're better with introductions more than me. Who do we have with us today on Behind the Brand?
First of all, I'd like to welcome you all to a very special lumberjack edition of Behind the Brand, where the beards are fantastic and life is amazing. But we're going to jump in that way back machine, okay? Back before the before times, when the outer space and the space still existed, I had the honor, privilege, and pleasure to go to an open mic hosted by the amazing Seth Adam. Yes, Seth Adam, phenomenal human being. But to get to the stage, I had to walk past this immaculate beard as he stood on another stage and started asking these incredible questions as per, what did Bart Simpson ask you to eat? And people would sit here and participate in, and it was this incredible community. Through that community, I've got to watch some incredible friendships and relationships blossom. Through that community building aspect, I then met this man again while dealing with some of the most chaotic and just nonsensical craziness in my entire life, known as the Rock Lottery. We talk about it a lot here. But then, out of a miracle marvel of amazingness, he also crafts the coolest bar game in the history of bar games. I'm gonna let you talk about it, but we're also getting to the busy season. So if you're getting hitched, not only can he provide you with the entertainment, but he can actually deal with the services. That's right, all inclusive. Just he won't provide you with the place unless you want to rent his backyard, which I'm sure that's up for Gabbana. But I'm not promising nothing. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to put your hands together for the owner of Digital Tracks DJing, a very dear friend and one of the best beards in the game, Anthony Apuzzo. Oh, wait, don't put your hands together if you're driving because we don't want any accidents. Keep your hands at 10 and 2, but mentally put your hands together. Anthony, brother, how are you?
Hello. Thank you guys for inviting me.
Thank you so much for being here. I love and respect the heck out of you. I have for many years. You're great to talk to. You're fun to me to see at shows. But where did the idea of DJing really come from? How did this become, from chilling in the bedroom to now, actually making a living doing this?
So, I've pretty much done something in music my whole life, whether it's being in bands. I hosted open mics throughout college, that kind of stuff. And always, usually it was my mom. We're like, hey, Aunt, you got all the PA gear. You got all this. Why don't you go host karaoke? Why don't you go host some DJ nights, this, that, and the other thing? And I was like, no, I didn't really want to do that because I was always a live musician. I'm a bass player. I'm in bands. I was always, drawn towards that aspect of music more so than saying, playing someone else's music for a crowd. But it got to be the point, it was a few years into my wife and I being married, and we wanted to have a kid. And I said, okay, well, if we're going to have a kid, I'm going to have to get a second job. And I figured if I'm going to get a second job, I'm going to need something that's flexible, that I can work around my regular day job, which at the time I was in banking. And so I said to her, do you mind if I have the PA gear and stuff. Do you mind if I invest in some DJ gear and kind of give this a shot? And that was in September of 2009 or so. And 3 months go by and my brother calls me up, and he's a wedding photographer. He's a professional photographer in many aspects, but he was primarily doing weddings at the time. And he said, hey, are you ready to DJ a wedding? And I said, I have not DJ'd for anyone. I've been, in my little garage, just kind of practicing and whatnot. And he said, "Oh, don't worry, you'll be fine." And 2 months after that, I DJ'd my first wedding, which was my first time ever in front of an audience or a group of guests. And that was it. The rest of history just took off.
That's crazy, especially DJing a wedding. I've spent some time as in my teenage years as a lackey to a DJ, which my job was to like pick things up, put things down, and keep drunks away. Which is always fun. I don't know if you've ever decided to do that, but it's like one of the 10 circles that Dante spoke about.
Mm-hmm.
Don't necessarily want to be there, but it happens. What was it like to really just jump into it with a wedding itself? Because, you hear all these, like, weddings can be such horror stories that there's literally TV shows about, brides that really are focused on getting what they want. I'm not knocking anybody. It's their day. It should be special, and families drive each other crazy. I get it. But, what is it like to just kind of come in there and, like, to me, like, being a musician, it's kind of like from playing your garage to jumping on as a support act at Toads.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a huge jump for, like, the first show. What did it feel like for you?
Yeah. So, I gotta going into the wedding, I got a good idea of the kind of stuff that the bride and groom were into. But my strengths, and even early on then, my strength is I'm a fan of music. I'm a fan of all kinds of music. There's I use this example all the time. There's literally one day where my wife and I, in this one day, we saw Tony Bennett, MC Hammer, and Blood for Blood on 3 different stages.
Wow.
Like it was a whole day. I was like, and we loved every bit of it. So, as a fan of music, I know about generations worth of music. I can look at a crowd. I could see their ages. And, one of my rules of thumb is people tend to gravitate towards music that they enjoyed in their high school and college years. And once you got that in your head, you could start attacking them and they're on that dance floor, rocking out. I know if this group over here, was going to high school and college in the 90s and I'm throwing 90s hip hop at them, they're having a great time. I know if this group over here is in their 50s, I'm doing an 80s playlist and they're having a great time. So that's kind of how I start formulating what I'm going to do on any particular event, because even with weddings, I don't create a playlist. I do everything on the fly. I'm vibing off the guests. Yeah. Because if I create a playlist and I say, this is what I'm going to play, and this is the order I'm going to play it in, it never, ever works. I got to look at that crowd. I got to see what they're responding to. Sometimes I throw something in there and it doesn't work and I lose the dance form. Okay. They're not into that. I need something else that's going to reel them back in. Yeah. I do everything on the fly because I'm vibing off, what they're vibing off of.
Now, when you do have that bomb, is it kind of like when you're performing live with a band? You're like, okay, I'm not going to let it play out for the whole 3 minutes. I'm just going to switch it over within like a minute and a half into something I know they're going to feel, or do you just let the bomb sit for 3 minutes? No,
I will never forget the wedding. Like for a long time, Lady Gaga was hot. And, she's still hot, but I will never forget the wedding where I was, in a particular set, and it just kind of would have naturally flowed into this Lady Gaga song that was hot at the time. I go into that song, dance floor clears. I'm like, all right, Gaga's over. And so I'm like, yep, kind of, find the right transition point, get out of that song into something back, reel them back in.
Now, for the guests, for the people that are listening at home, what do you mean by a transition point? Because I don't want to lose anybody. This is really important.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, just I don't want any dead air during my weddings. You'll never hear me, play a song and then you have a pause and then play another song. So we got to find those transition points, whether it's matching beats per minute or, just some way to flow one song seamlessly into another one.
Now, what, from a request point of view, and like, do you challenge yourself as per like, I'm going to see if I can transition, Tony Bennett into like, Blood versus Blood. Do you have those points where you're like, let me see if I can make this happen? And do you do them live, or is that just in the basement?
No. I've done it live because there's been several weddings that I've DJ'd where the bride or the groom wants me to throw in some like specific like metal tracks. I'm like, okay, well, how am I going to work this in? I DJ'd a wedding where the groom, he's like, look, I only want 2 songs played at the wedding. You play whatever you want. I want this Meshuggah song played and this Immortal song played. If you know either of those bands, those are ridiculously heavy bands. So I was like, oh, look, I'm playing them back to back. It's going to be later in the night. You know, you make sure you're on the dance floor, because if you're not on the dance floor, this isn't going to work. So I make sure the groom's on the dance floor, and I kind of flow into those songs. But then those were easy to kind of do back to back. I'm like, all right, how am I going to get out of this? And so it's like I start to fade one out, and I'm like, all right, like here's Prince, and it just we just made it work.
Well, but see that. Prince is a great call for that, to be honest, because Prince fits with everything.
Exactly.
You know, I kind of want to be like, hey, here's YMCA, everyone on the dance floor now after Meshuggah.
But what was funny about it, because the groom and his friends are headbanging on stage, and but all their guests, like, okay, that's his personality, that's who he is. The mom starts coming out, she's slam dancing with them, everybody's having a good time. But they, I always tell my brides and grooms, put enough of yourself in your like must playlist that your guests are going to be like, oh yeah, this is so them.
Right.
And that was a perfect example of that.
Now, because I've seen with other DJ companies and stuff, they have kind of like the package of, they'll then give a playlist of, the songs that were at the wedding. Do you keep track of the songs that you play so that you can spin that into a playlist for them?
Yeah, if I wanted to do that, yeah, my DJ software keeps a history of every song I play in the order that I played in. So if a bride and groom does come back to me and says, hey, what were you playing in this particular block or whatever, that was really good, and I can just print that out for them.
That's awesome. That is absolutely incredible. And now let's get into the branding aspect of it. What decided, what made you land on the name Digital Tracks and that amazingly weird logo that is behind? What is that thing that all the children are asking? What could that be? I mean, I have it tattooed on my arm, but other people might want to know. What is that particularly? Is that pagan?
Well, I actually have that tattooed on my arm as well. Actually, and my wife has it tattooed. It was one of our wedding anniversaries. We both got it tattooed on us. But before I get to that, one funny story. I used to have a belt buckle with that symbol on it, and I was on tour with a band like 20 years ago, and I had that belt buckle on, and some kid came up to me and was like, "What is that? Is that the symbol for the Matrix?" And I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "I don't even know what you're referencing," but I'm like, "No, that is." And any audiophile or record collector knows that is a 45 adapter. You got the 45s with the big hole. You put the 45 adapter in it, play it on your record player.
Man,
I have them all over the place.
That hurt my feeling, man.
I have one right here. I'm never without. I always have one nearby.
It's awesome. Like, I feel like after you said that you have it tattooed, I feel like we should be playing that clip from Step Brothers. Did we just become best friends?
That's right. But the name Digital Tracks Entertainment, honestly, I was just throwing darts at nothing. I was like, because even now, 12 years, 13 years, whatever, into DJing, I don't have a DJ name. Some people call me DJ Anthony, whatever. I don't have a fun, weird DJ name. But Digital Tracks Entertainment, I was like, okay, well, I'm not spinning vinyl, but I love vinyl, and I'll put that in there. And all the tracks are MP3s, and that's digital tracks. And I'm like, it just kind of came together. And had I put more thought into it, I might have changed it a little bit. Might have done something a little different. I heard an interview once with the band with Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters, and he said, if I'd known this band was going to be this big, I would have called it something other than the Foo Fighters. And I guess that's kind of how I feel about my name, but it's stuck now, and I'm happy with it. People know me by it, especially they know the symbol.
Well, and that's, like, to me, the coolest part of that is how it is now. It's an image conflict with the name, because it's Digital Tracks, but you have the audiophile 45 for the physical record play as the symbol itself. So, like, I love that. Like, that's, and I hope that was meant. And even if it was by accident, I don't even care, because it's that cool. So
It was a little,
you
it
get
was a
props
little,
in my head.
little ironic at the time.
Nice. I appreciate that. I definitely appreciate that. Now, how long was it just going and DJing weddings and like parties? And when did you transition? Because it's not the only service you offer.
Right.
You know, you also do trivia nights. Do you still do karaoke as well?
No, actually, I've never done karaoke. And that's
Okay,
one
cool.
thing I do not intend to ever get into.
Wow.
I used to love going to karaoke nights. You know, I think it was Thursday night, you know, when my wife and I were dating, it was like every Thursday night at Bennigan's in Hamden, we were at karaoke. Loved doing it. But all my friends who were in the karaoke business, who were the ones running the karaoke's, were all miserable doing it. And I was like, I get it because, you know, so you get this, sometimes the same people showing up every week. You know, there's the show tunes crowd, there's this. And I was like, yeah, that's maybe not something I want to, you know, dive into, and which is fine. You know, I never miss doing that. But to talk about the transition into the trivia stuff, that wasn't until about 2 years into my DJing. My friend Craig, who runs Big Boy Trivia, said, "Hey, you got all the gear. You know, I'm looking for more hosts. You want to do some trivia nights?" I said, "Absolutely." So he provided the questions, and you know, told me where to show up, where to set up the gear and whatever. And I just kind of ran with that for a little while, and then eventually we just kind of branched off a little, and I ended up taking on the Playwright in Hamden, which is my longest running night, myself, and I write all the questions and I put the whole game together, and we're coming up on our 10-year anniversary in August for that.
Congratulations, as I say that on
Congratulations.
WNHH-LP 103.5 FM New Haven, myself, Prestige, and my partner in crime, Long Island Rays, Elm City made EZ Bluez is in the building with the questions and the awesome dance. Go right ahead, my friend.
No, so as you do this transition and you go from like helping out your friend Craig, who also is amazing at the trivia stuff.
Yeah.
For all those who don't know, they should definitely pay attention. You know, you're in the Playwright, you're going through. What made you want to kind of create the questions yourself and, you know, do more than just the fill-in spot? What made you transition from substitute teacher to teacher?
Honestly, I don't know. You know, it was some of the stuff, and you know, I would read certain questions and then read the answers, and I might get challenged, you know, say by a team saying, "Hey, I don't think that the answer is right," and then I would quickly look some stuff. I'm like, "Yeah, that question could have been worded better. Could have been this and that," and then so that was just me always liking to be in control of everything I'm doing. Said, well, you know, I'm just going to start writing the questions. I'm going to make sure everything is fact checked. And if a team does come up to me and challenge me on an answer, you know, I have a retort, or, you know, or I will word a question in such a way with a specific year, a specific date where you just can't question it. A fact's a fact.
Right.
And I just really got into the rhythm of doing that. And when I started, I did have a few trivia nights, but you know, you may or may not. I have 2 trivia nights right now, and that's honestly all I want. You know, I custom make my games for those trivia nights. There's a lot of trivia companies in Connecticut. They have 40, 50. Some of them have 60 different nights.
Wow.
And you know, I focus on these 2 nights that I love. One being at the Playwright in Hamden, the other one being at the Cellar in Hamden. You know, 2 great venues, got great groups of people. I'm pulling in over 100 players every week at the Playwright. You know, I'm getting, you know, maybe between, 30, 40 players maybe over at the Cellar on a good night. And I enjoy that. I enjoy the quality of my games. I don't necessarily need a big quantity of games.
Makes sense.
No, and for those who don't know, I've been to a couple of them at the Cellar. I have both watched. I've never officially participated, but I definitely like helped out some teams. And it really is like, you know, I've seen a bunch of these different trivia nights kind of thing. It was one of those breaks that we had when we were in Georgia for the military was a trivia night type of thing. Your questions definitely are really well thought out. They're worded incredibly well because I am that stickler. I am that like, technically it's not where it's supposed to be. If it does, the comma has landed wrong in this sentence, and so your answer is incorrect. I'm that guy because I'm partially crazy, and that works out for me. And I've noticed that they're really, really on point, and it's a fun experience to go through as per whether it be the team names, which have had some incredible team names, or just this camaraderie. I know in the before times, especially at the cellar, the camaraderie was so on point. You would watch people trash talk on Facebook and how they were we were going to dominate this week. We're taking you down, you know, or, hey, this person has now moved, 40 minutes away. We need, that extra. Reminded me of the old bowling league. We need an extra fill in for tonight because we don't want to miss out. We got our usual table. And that is 100%. Now, it also is the amazing food there. Shout out to the Huggy there. But it has a lot to do with you, and you really do. It makes me feel like I'm going to someone's house and kind of like having a game night. Except they've got Purple Rain on tap, and I'm probably going to kill half that keg. It's true. That stuff's delicious. But yeah, so was that something that you just actively do, or again, is this just a true piece of your personality?
Well, I like to, when it comes to designing the games each week, I take into consideration many different ages, many different education levels, let's say. So, on any given week, I have, players that just turned 21, and I have players in their 50s and 60s, and I need to keep all the ages in between engaged. So, I might do, let's say, one week I do a round of, one hit wonders of the 1970s, and all the college kids are like, oh, well. But the following week, I'll follow it up with, okay, here's a whole round of TV theme songs from the 2000s, and then they're happy, and then the older folks are like, I don't know any of these shows, and so I try to balance everything out as much as I can. And you mentioned about players and whatnot, and teams and members moving away. Some of the teams I've had over the years have gotten pretty hardcore. I've seen and heard of teams firing members of their trivia team for not pulling their weight and bringing in someone else, like doing trades. And I'm like,
that's
guys,
commitment right there.
It's a free game, let's not take it that seriously. Have some fun. Because I have teams that regularly win, and I have some teams that have been playing with me for years and years that have never ever placed. They just keep coming because that's their night out with their friends. That's their Wednesday night outing to see their friends. So it's different levels of how serious teams and players take it. And I've been told before that some people think my trivia is too challenging. Others think it's too easy. It depends on what you do. I have teams that regularly score over 400 points out of a possible 500 every week. And that same week, a team might score, not even break 100. It is what it is. But my job is, at the end of the day, I don't care about the scores. I don't care who wins. I just care about how engaged all the players are. Are you enjoying it enough, even if you scored low, to come back?
Right.
So that's where awesome. That's where my focus lies.
So, and that kind of leads us into an incredible point now. So now you've done, just the straight up DJing the weddings. Now you're into doing the bar gigs. You're doing the trivia nights. You've got these awesome 2 trivia nights, one at the Playwright, one at the Cellar. But you have a new game. That is one of the coolest experiences I have ever had in my entire life as an audiophile. I mean, I was just in my bliss. And I want you to just share with the audience this incredible game that is your invention, by the way. High five to the ingenuity, sir. High five to the ingenuity.
Well, I can't take all the credit. So my game is Mixtape Match, and it is a variation of music bingo, which I did not invent. I made it my own. So music bingo is basically, it plays just like regular bingo, but instead of letters and numbers, the DJ or myself, play songs, and you match the songs with the ones on your card. It's just a little bit more fun than, saying, B12. But what the reason I started doing that was I was getting a lot of players telling me that they're getting very intimidated by my trivia nights. It is highly competitive. It is a little hardcore. So I said, I want to make another option for people to do at bars. So it kind of like became the thing, if you really want to, use your brain and, exercise your mind for a night, come to the trivia night. If you just want to have some fun, play a game that is strictly based on chance, just drink and sing and hear cool music, this is the Mixtape Match. So the Mixtape Match, as I mentioned, plays just like traditional bingo. I run free games and I run cash games. Basically, players get cards, and instead of letters and numbers on the cards, there are song titles. And I play about a minute of the song. There's no trivia involved. I tell them the name of the song. I tell them the name of the artist. All they have to do is find it on their card, in the pattern I tell them to, whether it's four corners or whether it's, an X. And some venues put up prizes. And if we're playing a cash game, which I think you've been to, that's where the players buy cards. That's where the players buy cards. That's right. Some of the pots get up to like $400.
Word.
But what I do, with me, always like to being hands-on and making the best possible experience. I in the last 2 years have put together 80 different categories in my Mixtape Match games. So you might have some 80s, you might have some 90s, whatever. But I also have a round of like, tonight we're going to do songs with the word good in the title, or songs that have something weather related in the title. So, you'll get Milli Vanilli's Blame It on the Rain, and you'll get Megadeth's Tornado of Souls in the same round. I think one night you played my Motown Funk and Soul game. One of my most popular games. You can't go wrong with that genre. So with me designing 80 different games, I can do a weekly game at a bar or restaurant for 6 months without repeating one of those rounds. And most of my games are actually bi-weekly. I can go a whole year and not repeat a round.
Wow.
So that kind of keeps the variety up. And, I don't get anybody saying, oh, we just did the 80s, 2 weeks ago. Why are we doing it again?
Right. Anthony, have you ever done fresh? Oh, sorry, guys. Anthony, just sparks a question since you're talking about whole bunch of categories. Have you ever done sitcom songs?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, my game, I just did it at 1741 Pub and Grill at Lyman. Nice. That was my Thursday game. We did TV theme songs just this past week.
Nice.
And that's great too, because I could do TV theme songs from the 70s right up until today. So you'll hear Welcome Back, Kotter, then you'll hear The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and then you'll hear like Better Call Saul.
But it's so interesting too, because like if you really look at the evolution of like TV theme songs, Bosom Buddies, it was a Billy Joel song that charted. Well, the Welcome Back Kotter song charted on the Billboard charts for a while. So it's really interesting to see. And then you see that evolution of then going to just being fodder created by the studio, and then licensing the Who, for all the CSI stuff. And then you started, in the 90s, you had a little bit of one-hit wonders that wound up doing the Rembrandts. Did the Friends song. That's right. I'm getting my trivia game up. I'm going to put this out right now. For a donation to Ukraine, you can get myself and Prestige on your trivia team. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not gonna offer prestigious services. He's the hardest working man in entertainment right now. I don't think he has a day off ever. But we will figure it out one of these days.
One of the things talking about the evolution of TV theme songs that I noticed, especially when doing TV theme song rounds and the Mixtape Bingo, is you take TV theme songs from the 70s and the 80s, some of those are a minute and a half long.
Mm-hmm.
You look at TV theme songs now, like just it's just an example of one I used this past week, like the Goldbergs. It's 13 seconds long.
Yeah.
You know, they're trying to cram in more commercials. They're trying to cram in more content. You know, people always ask me, you know, when I do TV theme song rounds, why most of them are from the 70s and 80s. I'm like, well, those are the greatest TV theme songs. You know, you can't beat, you know, the Jeffersons, Greatest American Hero, Facts of Life, you know, everything. You know, those were songs, you know, in and of itself. Growing Pains, Full House, even. Now it's like, you know, there's, you know, you take a show like either Breaking Bad or Ozark or something. It's like 2 tones. It's like boom, boom. There's the TV theme song.
Right. You know, it's super interesting, and I love how you actually brought it up. The point of it's the advertising and stuff that takes over. So you only do have those 13 seconds. And I also love the fact that you mentioned the Goldbergs, one of my favorite shows ever. Absolutely amazing, absolutely amazing. So as you're evolving, you know, you have this new game that comes through. Obviously, we have to talk about the elephant in the room. You know, your business is a people in place business, whether it be the DJing, whether it be you know, working in bars and stuff like that. And with this amazing setup, we talked about it, you know, before air. You actually were able to transition to digital games as well,
Yes.
where you would use Zoom and different things like that. You know, obviously it was a thing of out of necessity, but is it something that you're continuing to do, even though you're back in real life, in real person?
Yes, it's actually, yeah. So the setup you see here with the mic and everything, that all came about, you know, at the start of COVID. You know, when the bars and restaurants shut down, I was getting bombarded with emails from players being like, "Hey, are you going to do anything online?" And I honestly, you know, I hadn't thought about it, you know, because I work nonstop. And you know, I obviously the you know, the COVID thing, everything was very tragic at that time. But for the first time, I was forced to take a break. I was forced to take a breath, and I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I can get some yard work done or something like this. But next thing I know, all these emails are coming in from all my players saying, hey, you want to do an online trivia game, something like that. So you know, I looked into Zoom and got all my stuff together, and I started doing 3-round Zoom games twice a week. I think we were doing them on Tuesdays and Thursdays for an hour from like 7 to 8. And I put up my little, you know, Venmo at the bottom of the screen, and I found players were extremely, extremely generous. On some weeks, I was making more in tips than I was getting paid at bars. That's how generous people were. And then obviously we started getting back into the live games and stuff like that. But I do get calls from various organizations that want to do an online game. As a matter of fact, I do the first Monday of every month. I host an online game for the athletes of Connecticut Special Olympics. So we do some picture rounds, and we do some audio rounds. Name the song, that kind of stuff. Stuff that's usually audio visual is best for the Zoom games. You know, I show them pictures and ask them questions about it, that kind of thing. And then I have friends that live out of state that are, you know, part of their school organizations or whatnot. And they're like, hey, can you do a Zoom game for our 5th graders or something like that? And, you know, that school might be in Ohio or whatever. So yeah, I'm like, I could do it anytime you want. So I do still keep up with some online games for certain clients.
No, that's awesome. And I think that's moving forward. I think a lot of businesses are going to be transitioning to both because it was something that we did discover was there. I know, like, you know, from a musician point of view, we did really well with some of our live streams. Some of our live streams, not so much. You know, so every 3 months or so, doing a live stream at a rehearsal space just to like kick it off with the people makes sense, you know, because that helps to drive those different things. Where at one point, you know, we were at Sage Sound and doing one every single Tuesday because that was our only way we could perform and be in front of people. So I do think this new hybrid is where life is going to go. You know, as we interview you here on Zoom and don't have to be in, you know, a very nice, beautiful, well-painted studio, but, you know, I can sit here 3 days before back surgery and be like, no, we're going to be just fine today. We're going to be okay. So as you're continuing to go, what's the next level? What's the next evolution for Digital Track?
The next evolution. Well, I'll tell you the mixtape match has completely taken off. I have a new game starting just this week at Cheshire Brewery. I'm getting calls like crazy for the mixtape match. It's really taken off. I don't want to say trivia is on its way out, but I do have a lot of friends that host trivia, and they're not getting the kind of numbers that they used to, and they are looking into different things. So I've been kind of focusing more on the mixtape match. If any bars call me for trivia, I'm like, no, you're not getting trivia. You're getting the mixtape match, and it usually ends up working out pretty well for them. As far as the next level, I did just become Justice of the Peace. So in addition of DJing weddings, I can also marry you. that's been a lot of fun. And I don't know. I'm just kind of seeing how the next few years go by. I don't want to say I've expanded all as I can. I'm currently a one-man show. I don't have any employees, and I kind of like it that way.
Of course.
I like to be hands, and sometimes I do get overwhelmed with work. So I'm at a point right now was like, I don't think I can physically take on any more work. So I'm happy to be at a little bit of a plateau for the time being. But if the next step would probably be, as I'm 45 now, I'm sure by the time I'm 50, I'm going to get pretty tired of lugging all this gear around. So I may have to take on some staff and maybe get some younger DJs that I can kind of send out into the world and do different things.
That's great to hear on WNHH LP 103.5 FM New Haven. Myself, Prestige, and my partner in crime with the nice Shane Penguin hat. Long Island Rays, Elm City made, EZ Bluez is in the building. Easy, go ahead with your questions.
Sir, that was an amazing transition, because how did you know the next question I was going to ask was, what about merchandising? When are we going to see some Digital Track hats or sweatshirts? Or I got a match at Mixtape Match. Like, come on, like let's talk here. I got a whole week. We can roll out some stuff. We've got connections for you. So yeah, when's the merchandising coming out? Because as Mel Brooks has told us, that's where the real money of the movie's made.
As merchandising. So I've had there's been situations where I've made bottle openers and some cozies and stuff for specific anniversaries of like the trivia nights and stuff. Even early on, I had, brides and grooms. I would meet with brides and grooms like, oh, hey, do you have a pamphlet or anything I can take with us? And I'm like, no. And the reason at the time I was, any DJ who has all this merchandise or has all these pamphlets, all these things to give you, ultimately they're turning the costs onto the couple. And I've always been with my pricing as far as weddings go. I've been kind of at this I've been told by my couples, I'm at a very comfortable level, and I like to keep it that way. I like to keep it affordable. Not a lot of bells and whistles that I would need to keep raising my prices year after year after year. So that's one of the big reasons I don't have a ton of merch. I do have a few t-shirts with like mixtape and stuff on it that I, just have for myself. As far as selling anything, I really had to kind of like think about, would people buy a shirt, or would this be something that I would just be putting out cash for? You say yes, and throw them out at games and whatnot. But my main focus, and I think I mentioned this to you this week, was I've been working on a trivia book, which is something of like substance that I'm very proud of. I worked on it mostly during COVID. I was hoping to have it out last year, but me constantly, the perfectionist that I try to be, I keep rereading the whole trivia book, keep rereading, because the last thing I want to do is publish the trivia book and have somebody tell me something's wrong in it.
Right.
So I'm constantly that, but finally I just said, I'm going to be putting it out. I'm going to be putting it out this year. And I'm hoping that it will coincide with the 10-year anniversary of the Playwright Trivia Night, which is happening in August. So that's my merchandise that I'm very proud of. I'm more proud of that than saying just maybe releasing a t-shirt or something.
I'm gonna hook you up with a guy. No cost.
Oh, you got a guy? Okay.
I got a guy. no costs. You don't even have to worry about physical inventory. It's the way to go. You know, saying to quote, it's the wave of the future. I'm just saying the wave of the future. It's a fantastic thing to do. I think it'll be great because you have a community there. And, to me, from a business point of view, it is consumers that are just there. So it's money that and they are loyal. Like you have those fans that'll rock that hoodie. That's, in Michigan right now that they grew up doing this, 10 years ago, so I personally think it's a smart move. Like I said, I got a guy. There's no financial investment for you. So, we'll talk. It's more like a licensing deal. But it's a fantastic deal to rock and roll with. And I'd love to see it. And of course, I love to do unboxings and to wear people's stuff on air because I support and love them so much. Like OK Company, and I would definitely rock your gear because first of all, again, I have wonderful beard envy. Your beard has always been glorious. It is one of the first things I've noticed about you, and this is coming from someone whose solo logo is a beard and glasses with EZ in the beard. You know what I mean? So like, if I'm sitting there going, that's a good beard, I like it. Was this also just something as you get older, or was this, you started to grow it out and now you're absolutely in love with it? Was it a bet? Like, I love to figure out why dudes grow out their beards big.
I was always pretty much clean shaven. I used to have big sideburns all through high school. They called me Chops. And then, especially when I got married, I would always have a winter beard, but I would keep it trimmed pretty close. And I would have that from, the fall to the springtime. And one year I just said to my wife, is like, can you imagine what this would be like if I didn't trim it during that whole winter season? And the next winter I decided not to trim it. And I end up with this. And I decided to keep it. I'm like, this is a good look. I don't have a very strong chin. I kind of have like a, if I shave this, I kind of look like Kermit the Frog. Is like no chin. And so this kind of elongates my face. The only time I did trim it was when my son was born, a little while after that, when he got into the pulling phase. So I did trim it up for that. And, but I've let it go, ever since. And yeah, I think it keeps me recognizable. My wife and I were just discussing this the other night. We went to a show of Mohegan. We can't go to concerts. Any concert we go to, New Haven, wherever, inevitably I will hear somebody yell out, "Hey, trivia guy!" But they know the beard now, so they're like, "Oh."
No, it's true. It's for some, and it's really more in New Haven than I've seen it anywhere else. Where when people know you, they know you, and they have absolutely no problem pointing it out. I have been in Mystic, walking on the boardwalk. I'm like, "Oh, dude, I saw you at Stella Blues." I'm like, "Sure, that's awesome. I'm glad this was something you remember. I'm trying to take my child to get an ice cream. I just want some ice cream. You want to come with us and get ice cream? Like, let's get ice cream together and like have a moment. Or like, we got to kick rocks. Like, I got things to do, but I'm totally inviting you for ice cream." It's a really interesting experience, and kind of having children in this experience, the kids start to get a little, like, this is not actual normal reality, like I've had to, my kids have gone to school and been like, "Oh yeah, so I went to the recording studio with my dad and, got to hang out with some cool musicians." "Oh, what? You don't go to the recording studio with your dad? What kind of life are you living, man? I was on stage with the Temptations the other day. What are you doing?" I'm like, "Dude, don't do it like that. This is not an average everyday life, man. This isn't how things go in real life. Stay humble, please." "But Dad, you're famous." "No, I'm not famous. No one knows me. No one beyond this household knows exactly who I am. Some people have just pretended to see me at some point in time." So it's, what is it like for you, kind of, because your child is getting to that point of recognition, which is always fun.
Yeah. He knows me. He knows that I'm a DJ, if you ask what does Daddy do, he's a DJ. I say, and yes, so what does that mean? He plays music. But he also knows me from being in bands, because he comes into the garage. I got all the basses, I got all the instruments and everything in there, and so he sees me on a few different levels. Anytime I might be looking at something on my phone, I might be watching like a musical performance of some band or whatever. He'll come up and he's like, "Oh, is that Daddy's band?" I'm like, "No, that's just that's Jack White." Anytime he sees somebody on TV with a beard, oh, that looks like Daddy. He got a Lego figure with a beard just like last night, and it's like, oh, it looks like Daddy. He's like, he relates everything to the beard. But that kid's getting smart. He's starting to enjoy certain types of music. He has certain bands that he likes, and so he's always been fun, but he's getting more fun because I can start talking to him about music now. When I pick him up from school, we turn something on the radio. He'll say, "Who's this?" And I'll say, "Oh, that's the Foo Fighters. That's Beastie Boys." And he gets into that. So it's fun having a kid. It's fun having a kid, and I think it's more fun having a kid that I have all this stuff in the house. I have the DJ gear. I have my basses and stuff, that he can kind of play along with. He has a little PA system and a microphone. And, just yesterday, he's just runs up to the mic and just screaming Amon Amarth songs in there. He's like, "Raise your horns." And it's a blast.
Right. No, it's awesome. I actually had something similar. The twins have gotten into Green Day. And they're really just mainly focused on American Idiot. So, I'm walking through the house at some point in time, and American Idiot's playing, and they're banging away on their keyboard, trying to figure out like the right keyboard part for it, and it's not right, but it's adorable.
Yep.
So the musician in me is like, "No, go back, play the scale again." But like the fan in me is like, "Oh, I remember when I used to do that. I was horrible too one time. That's great." But it is so much more fun, those different types of aspects. Now, I have actually seen you bring the young one around for the Rock Lottery with the amazing headphones on and different things like that. Do you also, are there like certain places where you'll bring to show them like what the mixtape thing is like, or are we not quite there yet?
He hasn't been to any like the mixtape or the trivia nights or anything like that. We do go regularly, take him out to the breweries, those breweries around that are kid friendly. He loves going to Counterweight, and he'll sometimes on a Sunday he'll wake up in the morning. He's like, "Oh, we going to a brewery today?" Because we meet friends there, and he's got his little snacks and his iPad and stuff. But as far as the of him kind of seeing me work, there's only been a few times in the recent year where I might have been DJing some family events that he's actually seen. Okay, well, Daddy's over, at his table doing something with his hands and playing music for the people. But I don't think he quite grasps exactly what a DJ is as much as he grasps what a bass player is.
Right, of course. Yeah, no, that completely makes sense. And by the way, Preston, that's kind of like how I want to be greeted from now on. Been like, "Hey, are we going to a brewery today?" I think that's how all of our conversations should be at this point in time. Unfortunately, they are pulling the Apollo curtain, and just as the conversation starts to open up wide, and we really, really, truly get to know you, it is kind of unfortunate we got to roll that time to go. These last minute or so is 100% up to you. Please promote where they can find you, how they can connect with you, whether they want to get married, whether they need a DJ for any type of thing, what are the great places to go for the trivia, and how can we match some mixtapes? Please let us know, Anthony.
Well, check out all my events are up at digitaltracksdj.com. I also post everything on my Instagram and Facebook. You can find those at Digital Tracks DJ. This week, every Tuesday night, I'm at the Cellar in Hamden. Every Wednesday night, I'm at the Playwright. This Thursday night, I'm starting a new night at Cheshire Brewery. I'm going to be starting up some alternate Thursday nights at Little Pub in Old Saybrook. And in May, I'll be starting the first Sunday of every month at 1741 Pub and Grill at Lyman Orchards. That's Mixtape Match. having good stuff, a lot of good stuff happening, but definitely the website is where to find all my stuff, wedding information, mixtape match information, trivia information. When the book comes out, all that, digitaltracksdj.com.
That's awesome. I'm totally looking forward to the book, man. I am a big fan of you as a human and everything that you do. So I will support you 100%.
The respect is mutual. The respect is mutual. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Anthony, it's been a pleasure right here on Behind the Brand. Myself, Prestige, and my partner in crime, EZ Bluez on WNHH LP 103.5 FM, New Haven.
Wondering what to write about, trying to figure out what it's all about. Existentialist, am I worth anything or just a scout? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know.
Spending time all alone, sending my songs through the phone, dreaming of a better home, while focused on trying to hone